Election night 2022. The players: DeSantis, Chris, Lake, Hobbs, Fetterman and Oz, Warlock and Walker, Kemp and Abrams, O'Rourke and Abbott. Red wave or low tide? I'm Jazz Berganzo, and this is what's next. Happy election post morning. Well, I'm Jazz Berganzo, of course. This is what's next, your daily dose, and we're going to talk about what everybody's talking about, and that would be election night 2022. Last night, you had a multitude of players on the board. Who won, who lost, and what's undecided? Let's take a look. This is coming out of Breitbart. We're going to bounce around as far as what's going on. Now, let's talk about Fetterman and Oz. Fetterman and Oz was supposed to be a non-factor. Not many people were talking about it. But once Fetterman got, unfortunately, he had a stroke in May, things changed. Of course, you had Democrats come out of the woodwork. I mean, from, of course, your typical, dementia Joe to Barack Obama to one Oprah Winfrey who could not vote in PA, but yet she was giving her support to Fetterman. Now, of course, Fetterman, unfortunately, cannot put sentences together or complete words together only because of his recovering from his stroke. And of course, that should have been a detriment. That should have given Oz the ability. Oz, who is a heart surgeon, who is a very intelligent man, should have basically had this in his pocket. This race shouldn't even been a race, but it is. Right now, Fetterman is up by one. And you had a multitude of those call the race for Fetterman. I think that's rush to judgment. I think it's stupid. It's asinine. And worst case scenario, Oz will challenge the results of the race because it will be constitute as a recount if it stands as it is. You had Senator Mike Lee defeat Evan McMullin. Well, that was no race. A lot of people thought that Lee might have would have been challenged, but Lee won handily. One of the biggest races, one of the biggest talked about, was Stacey Abrams against incumbent Governor Brian Kemp. Stacey Abrams got smoked. She got smoked by as much as 8 points. And you had Democrats blow over $100 million in donor cash to back Abrams, and she collapsed. Why? Because of the racism. She did. She talked about racism all day long and twice on Sundays, and even as her most recent interview said that black men were being given dis or misinformation, however you want to look at it. Of course, to me, if I were black, man, I would take that as a slap in the face that, that I'm not intelligent enough to decipher what's true and what's not. Yeah, it came back to bite her right in her ass. And of course, she went down in flames. Then you have Beto, Mr. Beta O'Rourke, who was running around, shooting his mouth off against Abbott, thought he had a chance to deny Abbott a third term. Well, no. Abbott soundly defeated Beto O'Rourke in Texas. Of course, one of the biggest races a lot of people were talking about was DeSantis and Chris. Did Chris, who was a former governor, did he have any kind of a chance? At the end of the day, no. He also got smoked by almost 20 points by the macho man himself, Ron DeSantis. And now we come to one of the biggest races. Two of the biggest races. We go back to Georgia with Warlock and Hochul Walker. Now, right now, as I'm watching a multitude of polls and what the percentage points are, right now, Warlock is up by 1. He's up by 1. That's it, which is in the margin of error, just like what were the races I was mentioning? Fetterman and Oz. Sorry, there's just so many races all over the place. But yeah, it's by one. You have, of course, Arizona. Katie Hobbs versus the Savage Queen herself, Kari Lake. And right now, supposedly, Hobbs is up by one. This shouldn't even been a race. Kari Hobbs never even got into a debate forum with Kari Lake because she was scared to death of Kari Lake. Well, Kari Lake was going to smoke her. And Kari Lake was running around the entire state and running around the country talking about what the situation was going on in Arizona. One of the biggest ones, of course, the situation with the border and, of course, the fentanyl flowing over into the United States. And she was going to put a stop to it. And, of course, as we all know, there have been shenanigans that have happened in Arizona before. Why does this sound familiar? 2020. But anyway, so that is going to be one that's hotly contested, and it's going to be challenged either way. Whether Kari Lake wins by 1-3, Hobbs wins by 1-3, there's going to be challenges, and courts are going to be involved, sadly. Of course, one of the biggest races that were talked about were, I think, that would be New York. And, of course, Rick Scott won handily. You had Scott in North Carolina winning handily. Let's see. I don't see. Let me see. If I can. Let's see. I want to see New York. Where is New York? Alabama won soundly. Ron Johnson, yes, Ron Johnson out of Wisconsin won handily over Mandela, not that Mandela, Barnes, who of course Mandela Barnes was running around all over Twitter, trying to chop Ron Johnson down, and Ron Johnson slapped him to the side. Over $96 million was wasted in that campaign. You have Republican Adam Laxalt in Nevada. You had Republican Andy Ogles in Tennessee. You had Republican Monica De La Cruz in Texas, 15th Congressional District. Like I said, Fetterman Oz is still way too close. You can't even call that. Sadly, we do have Democrats winning, and that is Patty Murray in Washington State. Shocker. Let's see, Governor Gavin Newsom, there's a shocker there because nobody ran against him. Iowa wins. Kristi Noem's, wow, shocker, she wins her seat and retains governor. Where is New York? Hochul won her full term on Tuesday night despite a surprisingly strong race by Lee Zeldin, who refused to concede the election. Now, of course, like I said, don't know the percentage points. Suffolk County, of course, they said Hochul was leading 52.7 to 47.3. If it were 52-50 or 52-49, 49, 51-48, I can see Zeldin say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're going to challenge this because this is too close. This was as far as 1 a.m. So, of course, the numbers have not changed. I'm sorry. Then again, I got updated 2 a.m. and the numbers still did not change with 93% of the votes counted. My thoughts, and I'll cut this down a little bit. Predictable that you had Macho Man Ron DeSantis just slap Charlie Crist around. Predictable that you had Abbott also slap Beta. So, of course, he will be going back to selling soy and estrogen products. I thought Zeldin would give Hochul, who is a clown, a better race. But sadly, you have, like I said, you have enough knuckleheads in New York, enough blind knuckleheads to vote her back in. Of course, the two biggest races to continue to look on is Warlock, Walker, Fetterman, Oz. Right now, 1 point separates those two races. Biggest surprises? Again, Lake, Hobbs. To me, Lake should have walked away with this easily with a +5 or even double digits, but for this to be in the margin of error from 1 to 3 is extremely surprising. But then again, with the shenanigans that have happened in Arizona in the past. And there's been a number of news reports regarding ballots, regarding the electronic voting machines. I shouldn't be surprised. Maricopa County has been extremely disappointing so far, and Lake called it. Lake said there was going to be issues in Maricopa County. Trump said that there were going to be issues in Maricopa County. Again, as I'm doing this video, there's going to be a lot of shenanigans going on. Courts, sadly, will be involved. But as far as the main gubernatorial races, they came out, they were predicted, and they turned out what we all thought it was going to be. As I stated in the beginning of this, was it going to be a red wave or a low tide? A lot of people thought that it was going to be a red wave, that it was just going to be flowing. You look at a lot of the congressional seats. I mentioned some, I didn't mention all, but right now you got Republicans, a 30+ seats in the House. The main thing is the Senate. Senate right now is 48-48. Like I said, those two races in Georgia and PA are going to make the difference between getting things done or not. And that's my update. I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is what's next. Want to see more just like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.